Welcome to this episode of Heal Your Past, Master Your Future. My name's Tracy Malone. I'm a somatic trauma coach, and this is the fourth podcast in the series about polyvagal theory. In the first podcast, I spoke about polyvagal theory and what it is. The second episode, we spoke about ventral vagal safety, the green light step of the nervous system. In last week's podcast, we talked about the sympathetic state, the orange light of the nervous system. And in this week's episode, we're going to talk about dorsal vagal, the third step, the red light of our nervous system. If you've listened to the other podcast, which I strongly suggest you do, because it's really important to understand polyvagal and ventral and sympathetic, to now really go deeper into dorsal vagal, you will know that the body will down-regulate into dorsal vagal when your sympathetic pathway has been activated. If you are under stress, your body will activate the sympathetic pathway and go into fight or flight. If you are unable to mobilize the stress or the fear that you're feeling in that moment, the body cannot return to safety because you have not shown it is safe by mobilizing. So what it does instead is it takes the adrenaline and the stress in your body, it tucks all that into a ball, pushes it into your nervous system and locks it in there, your body somewhere. And then the body down-regulates into the next state, which is dorsal vagal. This is where freeze, fawn, dissociate lives. This is fear and stress with immobilization. So you can see why mobilizing and somatic responses and somatic exercises are so important. Because mobilization is the key to healing our body and moving back to a place of ventral vagal safety. The purpose of dorsal vagal is to give that sympathetic state energy somewhere to go if we're not able to return back to ventral vagal safety. It has kept us alive for this long, and especially if you grew up in a generation as a child where you weren't allowed to cry, where you weren't allowed to run away and leave when your parent may have been yelling at you, because yelling at children was normal when we were younger. And being told, you will stand here and you will look me in the eye as I yell to you. What is our body meant to do with all of that energy? Thank the heavens that we were built with a nervous system that gave us a state of dorsal vagal shutdown. Because the vagus nerve governs social connection and interaction, if you are somebody who withdraws from people a lot, who really doesn't like being around other people, the people who prefer the company of animals over people, you can pretty much be guaranteed that your body has spent an enormous amount of time in dorsal vagal. When you first become aware of polyvagal theory, and we're talking about dorsal vagal, you might feel your body entering this state. And I just want to let you know that that's okay. The beautiful thing about dorsal vagal is there's no active response to get out of it. There is initially meeting yourself within that state and giving your body a felt sense of safety in dorsal vagal in order to let it know when it's ready, when your body's ready to upregulate out of dorsal vagal, you will meet it and you will support it through that. So that's really important about dorsal vagal. If you are listening to this and you feel your body dropping into dorsal vagal, that's really, really normal. And it's okay. It's totally okay. There's nothing wrong with you if that happens. So we've gone through social withdrawal, really not wanting to be around people, finding it really difficult to spend time in crowds for a long period of time. Remember that the vagus nerve is really impacted by the stresses of life. Tonic immobility, When your body really collapses right down, if you're a therapist and you work with people and you see their body go into tonic immobility, if you find yourself in a position where you can't speak up, where you allow things to happen even if you don't really want them to, if you say yes to something that you really would like to say no to, but you don't feel safe enough to actually say no, this is all activation of the dorsal vagal pathway. This is where trauma lives in our body. Trauma doesn't actually live in the sympathetic state. That's where stress lives. That's where mobilization and activation lives. And if that doesn't get activated, then it gets locked into dorsal state, and this is where trauma lives. So if you're ever in trauma loops, if you're in repeating patterns, repeating relationships, repeating jobs, etc., it means that your vagus nerve tone may be underdeveloped and that you're spending a lot of time down here in dorsal vagal. And it is more common than you could possibly come to understand. So know that whilst you're in dorsal vagal, you are absolutely not alone. There are millions of people in this world who sit in this space as well. This is where shame lives. This is where self-blame lives. And if you see fear and stress with immobilization, this is where it all lives. When the body takes all the stress from the sympathetic state and pulls it into a ball and pops it in, it actually encourages our body to downregulate and triggers our body to downregulate into dorsal vagal. If you have depression, that means your body has lived in dorsal vagal for an extended period of time. Anxiety lives in the stress state, and hyper lives in the stress state. Hypo and depression live in dorsal vagal. If you have chronic fatigue, then you're spending time in dorsal vagal. Burnout, your body has dropped into dorsal vagal. If you have times where you know what it is that you should be doing, you've got the big to-do list, and you can only actually activate to do it and mobilize to do it when you have a serious deadline, that your body was actually down in dorsal vagal. When our bodies are spending a lot of time in dorsal vagal, usually it's a negative sympathetic stress response that will get us to actually do movement. So we know we've got a deadline and we've got the thing to do, and we know how to do it. And there's nothing wrong with us that we can see. So why aren't we doing it? So we sit in this shame spiral and we beat ourselves up. And then all of a sudden the deadline gets closer and our body gets activated into sympathetic stress response. And it's like, we're in stress now, we need to go and do the thing. And so we go and do the thing, but because we don't have the strength of the sympathetic platform and we don't have the strength of the vagus nerve to sit ourselves back up, upregulate into ventral vagal safety, green light zone, when we've done the thing, what often happens, because our pathways are not strong enough yet to upregulate, we build enough stress in our system to do the thing, and then we drop back down and we need an enormous amount of rest after it. And if we're not resting and we do try to get ourselves moving, we're drinking 6 to 8 cups of coffee a day to get ourselves moving, to do just function in the world. A body does not need 6 to 8 coffees a day to function unless it is moving from a sympathetic state of activation down into dorsal vagal. You're in a loop, and you're in a stress and trauma loop where you're moving between these two platforms, and your body doesn't have the strength yet to upregulate back to ventral vagal safety. That's what this education is about. That's what this podcast series is about, and this is what all of my work is about, is educating you on these 3 platforms so that you now have the ability to upregulate yourself back to ventral vagal safety. If you are somebody who works in the corporate world and you have disengagement, if you have procrastination, or if you just have apathy in your staff members or in yourself, now you know why and what state of the nervous system that they are living in. If they are unable to receive praise, it means that they have a low self-esteem and that they are living in a place of shame, which means they are spending time down in dorsal vagal. If they are saying, yes, of course I can do that, and not being able to deliver, then their body is in dorsal vagal. If you're not quite sure and you're wondering, how did I get into dorsal vagal? If you had parents that weren't able to create a place of safety and belonging for you, then you actually would have become a parent at a very young age. So you would have actually had to look after yourself a lot more, especially emotionally. If your parents were unavailable for you to express emotions, then you would have been in the dorsal vagal state, and your nervous system would have learnt that it was never safe because it was never able to go up into ventral vagal, green light safety, and that there was no safe adult to look after you, so you needed to look after yourself. And if that's you, just place a hand on your body and take a nice breath and say, well done, I did that, and I've got myself this far. Thank goodness for dorsal vagal. We would not be here without it. It was the thing we needed when we didn't have a safe adult around. If you go into a shame spiral is usually accompanied by a shutdown. Anytime you're not getting a response from a team member, anytime somebody ghosts you in a work environment, or if you have clients, if you're a coach or therapist of some kind and your clients just ghost you, it means their system just became overwhelmed and they've gone into dorsal vagal shutdown. And they may or may not be back when they're able to upregulate. The wonderful thing about polyvagal theory is that we now have tools into how to set a path from shutdown to reconnection. Here are the things that don't work to bring our body from shutdown dorsal vagal state to ventral vagal safety. Accountability coaching will not bring you back to ventral vagal safety. It may even just reinforce your lack of strength in your nervous system to upregulate back to safety, and it might even force you back into a shame spiral down to shutdown. That has happened to me in the past. I paid a lot of money for a coach who did accountability and who had no awareness of nervous system states, and I paid a lot of money for not much to happen. It wasn't her fault. She gave business advice. She did not understand nervous systems. I wouldn't work with people these days who don't understand nervous system states because of that reason. Because the nervous system and the tone of my vagus nerve and my ability to maintain ventral vagal safety governs my ability to do everything else. A gratitude journal will not bring you out of dorsal vagal back to ventral vagal safety. Over-exercising and trying to push yourself when your body does not want to move will not upregulate you back to ventral vagal safety. All of these things will actually keep you through the trauma loop spiral of dorsal vagal sympathetic state activation, dorsal vagal sympathetic state activation, dorsal vagal. The way that we move out of dorsal vagal is to fully accept and surrender to the fact that we are in dorsal vagal. And when we are in dorsal vagal, we meet ourselves and our dorsal vagal state with so much compassion and so much love and so much safety, and we allow it to be there. And then what it does is the body says, all right, I think I can move through this now. I think I'm ready for the next step. And when your body says that it's ready for the next step, it's about small, consistent movements in full connection to your body and full communication with your body on each step so that you don't push it too far too fast and find yourself back down in dorsal vagal again. If you do, it's okay. But if you want a consistent practice and pathway back to ventral vagal safety, it is done in small, consistent moments over a period of time. Rome wasn't built in a day. If you think about how long you've been shutting yourself down and dropping down into dorsal vagal and how much tone you will be lacking in your vagus nerve, it will take a significant amount of time for you to build tone in your vagus nerve to get back up to ventral vagal safety and be able to hold the state. You're probably entering ventral vagal safety at moments now, but you don't have the tone in your vagus nerve to stand on that platform for a long period of time. What does that feel like? That feels like I live on a beautiful property out in the Samford Valley, and I make a cup of tea and I go and sit down outside, and maybe I want to read a book, or maybe I want to sit and I want to watch my horses in the paddock. And I brew my tea and I go outside and I sit down in a beautiful comfy chair, and as soon as I sit down I take my first sip of tea and I think, oh God, I haven't done that thing. Oh God, all of a sudden my body goes into sympathetic state. It's not safe for us. We are not safe. We do not get to rest in safety. What do you think you are doing here? And it gives me 20 other possibilities of things that I should be doing right now. And so even when I have the space and ability to rest, my body can't rest because it is not in ventral vagal safety. The only time my body can rest is when I'm in ventral vagal safety. So right now where my nervous system's at, I don't spend all day in ventral vagal safety. I haven't built my vagus nerve tone. I've only been doing this since January, and I'm building pathways. And then we had a cyclone in the middle of it, and I'm also a solo parent. So I carry a lot of sympathetic responses, a lot of load that I carry every day. So I don't think that I should be spending all day up in ventral vagal safety because I'm teaching the thing and I'm doing the thing and I should have it. I should have it all figured out. I meet my body exactly where I'm at. And I am able to, for long periods of time, when I have the space in my diary now, to sit outside and literally look at the birds or watch the horses or stare at my cats. And that is because I have built the tone in my vagus nerve enough to be able to sustain that for a period of time. It takes a minimum of 3 months of daily vagus nerve resets to fully reset your vagus nerve, to start building the tone and strength that you need to actually hold yourself in ventral vagal safety. And the vagus nerve activation exercises take from 1 to 3 minutes. They're not an hour a day, and that's a beautiful thing that I love about this somatic work. Not only do we have our own childhood patterns of disconnection and shutdown, but we also subconsciously hold trauma from our ancestors, generations gone by, in our own bodies and our fields. And that is the work that I do in family constellations. So you think about the amount of oppressed, if you are a woman, the amount of oppressed women and the amount of oppressed men through things like organized religion and patriarchal systems, and how we were meant to live within a world and the amount of constraints it will put on us, then you can see how we may be carrying some shutdown from ancestors gone past as well. So that's where family constellations comes in. So what I'm hoping that you're really understanding now is there's nothing wrong with dorsal vagal. Dorsal vagal is a beautiful, important part of our nervous system. And when we get there, the only thing we need to do is to meet ourselves there and surrender into that space. Once you meet yourself there, there are some really gentle exercises to reconnect with your body, to wait for it to become responsive enough to be able to move out of dorsal vagal. But the first step always is to meet yourself exactly where you're at and really recognize, I'm in dorsal vagal right now. I don't have to get up off the couch. I don't have to get out of bed because my body is unable to do so right now, and that's okay. And the exercises that we do for dorsal vagal is we actually curl the nervous system up and then uncurl or unwind the nervous system a little bit. So we're teaching the body that it is able to move out of that immobilized state. The most gentle, safe mobilization practices can just let your body know, I'm here, I've got you, and it's safe for you to move out of this now. And remember that the vagus nerve is the nerve that governs social connection. So if you are feeling like you really don't want to connect with people, but somebody in your workplace, a leader, a beautiful coach or therapist offers you a regulated, safe nervous system and tells you you're okay exactly where you are and asks you what they can do to support you, it will be a beautiful healing thing for your body, because your nervous system will not be under threat and your nervous system will have a map back to safety. And that's where the role of community comes into healing. The importance of leaders in the workplace, in a corporate environment, the importance of coaches, of therapists, of healers to understand the nervous system, because remember, the vagus nerve is 80% sensory fibers, body up communication. The vagus nerve and the body's nervous system is reading other nervous systems around it. So if you meet this person in dorsal vagal in their red light zone from a place of ventral vagal safety, you are giving them a pathway back to safety that they may not have had in their life before. I'm really hoping from this series of podcasts that you're starting to understand the importance of polyvagal theory and understanding the nervous system and the role that this type of education plays in corporate workplaces, in coaches, in educators, in healers, in teachers. And you may have heard the phrase used before, embodied leadership and authentic presence. You cannot have that unless you have a good relationship with your body and a toned vagus nerve where you can sustain the nervous system state of ventral vagal, that green light state, for an extended period of time. And you can safely role model what sympathetic activation looks like and then safely moving back up to ventral vagal. And even if you're moving into dorsal vagal at some time, being able to vocalize that, allow yourself to be there, and opening conversations and awareness around this, so then we all know what to do in those moments. So embodied leadership and authentic presence, hopefully after you've listened to this series of 4 podcasts, has a different meaning to it than it did at the start. And hopefully you understand now that shutdown is not a character flaw, that isolating yourself is not a bad thing or a problem. It is the best tool that your body's got available to keep you safe in the best way that it knows how. And if you are a leader of any kind, you can show these people a different way by showing them what ventral vagal safety looks like and giving them a different pathway to safety than having to shut down. That is a gift that will change lives. It will change the person's life that you give it to. It will transform companies. It will transform your ability to coach people, your ability to lead people. And if there is any change that the world really needs, in my opinion, it is this one. We need more leaders of ventral vagal safety so that people can build their own pathways back to safety. For too long, we have seen leaders who are overbearing, who are patriarchal, and who will force us down into shutdown to comply with what it is that they're wanting to do. If we want a world of collaboration and of connection, that pathway is going to be forged through our vagus nerve and the toning of our vagus nerve. If this series of podcasts has really got you motivated and you want to learn more, I have many ways that you can take the next step from here. You can work with me one-on-one, where we can work on your nervous system, healing your trauma there in a one-on-one capacity, and learning how to build ventral vagal safety in your body. I can come in and do talks around polyvagal theory and the nervous system in your workplace if you would like that. I have an online course which is called Release, a 6-week journey to let go of tension and trauma from your body. It is an introductory course where I take you in 6 weeks through a lot of different practices so that you can build your own practice to take with you after those 6 weeks through your life and really let go of tension and release trauma from your body and build tone in your vagus nerve. I'm also developing a course right now that is for leaders and educators. If you're like, I want to learn more about polyvagal theory so I can actually teach it to people, that's what I'm putting together now. We're going deeper into cranial nerves. We're going deeper into every step of the nervous system. There's a lot to understand about many facets of these that I won't go into in a podcast. So keep an eye out for that on my website. And if you would like to share my courses with other people, or you want your organization or something like that to take any of my courses, I can set you up with affiliate links or licensing. And I can also create courses for specific workplaces. There's so much we can do together around somatic healing and polyvagal theory. Thank you so much for joining me in this series of the podcast. I love educating people about this. I think it is empowering, and I think it is an absolute game changer. And I know that because I've watched my clients do incredible things through building tone in their vagus nerve and capacity in their nervous system to hold that state of ventral vagal safety, and really starting to mobilize and release a lot of the tension that they've been holding in their bodies their whole lives. Thank you again for joining me in this episode. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of Heal Your Past, Master Your Future.